Pro-life supporters flocked to Parliament Hill in the thousands on Thursday for the 16th annual March for Life rally. The event drew sign-carrying supporters from all across Canada. Even a few MPs and senators came to show their support.
Gendercide is the systematic elimination of girls just because they're girls. 92% of Canadians say that's wrong. I say that's wrong. Do you say that's wrong? So together we will keep up the fight and we will win.
Life is worth fighting for. Ending female gendercide is worth fighting for. You keep up your work out here and in your communities, and we're going to do it here in Ottawa.
The Prime Minister has been accused of muzzling pro-life MPs ever since the party whip removed Mark Warawa's right to speak in the House. He intended to discuss his bill to stop sex selection abortion. It's a move many activists say will harm Harper's chances at re-election.
Harper has too much control, and he just stifles anybody that wants to speak out. And he's going to find it come another election, he won't be in there.
I really do think the pro-life MPs, whatever their cause, I do feel they should be allowed to speak up.
There was a different kind of protest going on inside the Hill on Thursday. Senator Mac Harb pulled out of the Conservative caucus over a report released by the Senate's Committee on Internal Economy. The senator continues to proclaim his innocence and has hired a lawyer to fight the audit's results. The report, released by an external auditing firm, ordered Senators Mac Harb and Patrick Brazeau to pay back housing and mileage expenses plus interest, dating all the way back to 2011. Brazeau must repay $48,744, and Harb must repay $51,482 for expenses claimed between April 1, 2011 and March 31, 2013. Conservative Senator Mike Duffy repaid the Senate earlier this year after claiming his PEI home as his primary residence. His case is now closed.
Where is the accountability? Will this government insist on accountability? Will they insist that documents are turned over to the police and these people are held accountable for ripping off the taxpayers?
As a result of the audit, the Senate says they will be implementing stricter spending rules.
Going to the legislature February 19th, and what I have heard people saying around the province is that
Speaking of spending, Kathleen Wynne tabled her first provincial budget since being named Liberal leader in January. The budget intends to reduce spending to 1% below GDP growth. As many expected, the Liberal budget includes many of the demands requested by NDP leader Andrea Horwath.
But what we don't see are any accountability measures. What we don't see are any real commitments in there to achieve these things for Ontarians. And that's what we're going to be talking to Ontarians about.
The opposition, led by Conservative leader Tim Hudak, has repeatedly said his party will not support the budget.
I don't think there's much of a difference really between the NDP and the Liberals these days. But if you believe we can do better than this, if you believe that Ontario's economy can get back on track, then look at our plan. It's a way to get Ontario moving again.
We're here with Sonia Bell from Windsor. She's going to talk to us about the Ontario budget. So the Liberals unveiled a budget this week that was widely seen as NDP friendly, but NDP leader Andrea Horwath hasn't committed to supporting it. So what was in the budget to accommodate her needs, and what else can be done?
Right. So this was a very orange-friendly budget. And we saw that the most striking example of that is that Horwath had asked for $30 million to be earmarked for home care, and Kathleen Wynne came back and said we'll actually put $260 million towards home care.
Wow.
She also responded to their request for auto insurance premiums to be lowered by 15%, and they responded to her call for help for unemployed youth with a $295 million youth jobs strategy. So Horwath's problem here, while we're talking about the budget, the problem is actually more about something else that's going on at Queen's Park right now, which is a lot of discussion about the canceled gas plants in Mississauga and Oakville, and why the Liberals did that just ahead of the last election. This has been in the news because Wynne and Dalton McGuinty both testified at the committee recently. So the narrative has changed, and what Horwath wants now is accountability in the budget. So that's where kind of these new problems are coming from, and where her new post-budget demands are coming from. So this idea of an accountability office, kind of a EO at Queen's Park, if you will, has been put out there. But there's not. I think that the Liberals are going to be a bit more strict in their reception of those ideas. Finance Minister Charles Horwath says no new spending initiatives, which puts a kibosh, for example, on a brand new PPO style office.
Recent polls show that a majority of Ontarians don't want a provincial election. What is the likelihood that the NDP will vote down the budget, triggering an election?
I think there's a very good chance that in the end the budget will pass. The thing that's important to remember is that this is exactly the same pattern that we saw last year. Horwath looked at the budget, said, I'm going to talk to Ontarians, went away for a week or so, I can't quite remember, talked to Ontarians, came back with a few suggestions. In that instance last year, they were accepted. One of them, I remember, was a new surtax on the super rich. Right. And I think that, and then ultimately, the NDP didn't vote for the budget, but they abstained and allowed the budget to pass. So I would expect something, maybe that exact pattern to play out again, with perhaps a suggestion being accepted, one that doesn't cost a lot of money or any money, and the budget to pass. And the reason that I also think that is because Horwath just doesn't. It's only Tim Hudak that seems to be really gunning for an election.
He's
right
very
now.
much against it, yeah.
And it makes the most sense. His party is the one that's doing best in the polls. Horwath doesn't. It would be difficult for Horwath to campaign against this budget. It's a budget that she could have written herself. Yeah. She would be leading the. She'd be going onto the campaign trail with the accountability issue. And I just, I think that they'll wait another.
Yeah, and I mean, a new poll that came out this morning said 44% of NDP supporters in Ontario want her to support this budget. So I guess we'll find out in the next week or so what's going to happen and whether or not the budget passes. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Annie.